Chat. Happy it's Monday. Happy Monday night. My goodness. First of all, I started this intro without starting the live, and now we're here finally, eventually. So excited to be here. Kim Zajac is joining me tonight. Kim is a self-described architect of access, facilitator of communication and inclusion, an agent of curiosity, and creative educator who uses her over 25 years of experience as a certified speech and language pathologist and audiologist with a specialized certification in the area of neurodevelopment treatment with pediatrics to leverage technology, the power of creativity, and empowering learners strategies to support students with diverse learning and communication needs in a variety of educational settings. With a passion for establishing equitable access and inclusion for all students, Kim supports innovative integration of technology as a tool in creating teaching and learning experiences by being a leader and a member of a variety of communities like K-12 Leaders Advisory Board, Leveraged Collective, Massachusetts DESE Artificial Intelligence Task Force, EdCamp Southeastern Mass, ISTE, Adobe Creative Educator, presenting at South by Southwest EDU, FETC, MassQ Fall Conference, and so much more. I am so excited to have Kim Zajac join me on Doodle and Chat tonight. Here she is.
Thank you so much, Carrie. It is such a pleasure to be here with you. We go back a long way, and it is just such a pleasure to be able to doodle and chat and just talk about all the things happening. This world is ever changing, and the best part about it is that we keep connecting and, circling back and expanding our circle of network to just keep learning and support our learners in our classrooms. It's great.
I love it. I love it. I couldn't agree more. And I would say that it's been a minute since I've had somebody from my neck of the woods in education that's in special education on with me. So I'm really excited to ask you the questions that I got to have a little bit more in-depth understanding to write them for you, because you're kind of in my wheelhouse,
Absolutely.
And I'm also excited just to learn from you too.
Yes, likewise. And yeah, I think that our conversation tonight is going to be really genuine and authentic and just relatable, I think, for us both, but also for the listeners and people joining us to doodle and chat tonight.
Yes, so excited, so excited. And we were so excited to catch up before we went live. Kim and I go way back. How long has it been since Boston? Seriously, has it been 10 years? No.
It's very close to 10 years.
Yeah.
I believe it was well before pandemic.
Yes.
So that's creeping up on 6 years now. So
at least, yeah, that's true.
Probably 8, maybe 8.
Yeah. So you and I are people that met on the internet and then met in real life at a conference. Yes. And have stayed connected in whatever way we can, I think.
Absolutely. Past the Sketchnote. I mean, we found ways that even though we don't live near each other, we were able to connect and keep things going through a variety of different creative pathways. So,
yes.
And this is just the latest one, which I'm so honored to be part of. This is just great. I love watching these episodes. I've joined them before as a listener and a contributor, and it's just such a refreshing and fun thing to do, especially on a Monday night.
Oh, fun. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you being here with me. I'm excited for others to learn about you. I'm sure you know a little bit about the Bowl That Knows.
Yes.
And for those of people who are joining us who don't know, this is the Bowl That Knows, and it has questions that are very specially written just for Kim, as well as a couple other random ones that even I don't know what they are. And we call it the Bowl That Knows because throughout the years and all the people that we've had on Doodle and Chat with Friends, it always seems to give us just the right question for just the right time. So I'm going to turn my camera on so people can watch me draw while Kim talks. And then I know Kim's got her iPad. So as we wrap up our episode, if she wants to share what she's drawn, that will be wonderful to see too.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
The suspense is killing me. I can't wait to see what we draw out of the Bowl That Knows.
Yeah, even I don't know, right? Because I don't know what question we're going to get. So here we go. Ooh. In your most recent piece, The AI Equity Gap, nobody is talking about, why special education is being left behind. You shared the excitement that AI holds, but also offered us caution. What is one thing you are excited AI will be for students with disabilities, and one thing you caution educators to consider with AI and students with disabilities?
Such a great question. Very timely. And an important one for us to think about too. I always like to look at AI for all the possibility that it holds. In terms of our learners who are neurodiverse, who might receive special education services and supports, you know, there are oftentimes these gaps that exist, these, the barriers that sometimes get in the way of equitable learning experiences in the K-12 journey. And so AI has a lot to offer in terms of supporting educators to be able to design and deliver learning experiences that are accessible, that eliminate the barriers, and that, allow everybody the opportunity to arrive to learn the same content, to have the same experience, to be able to talk and engage in ways that fit each person in just the right ways. There are many tools out there. And so, we've learned just over the past few years that we can do a lot to level text. We can do a lot to build in scaffolds. We can do a lot to use translation features. We can look at a traditional lesson and activity extensions and consider how that might transform into something project-based that then allows for UDL frameworks to be perhaps more easily integrated into what actually happens in the classroom, and then what actually then happens for the learners. And so there's a lot of possibility there. And that is just from one perspective of how can the teacher use AI to design the learning experiences and the content and the activities and the engagement points to be accessible for everyone. There's even more that we can look forward to our learners experiencing in terms of when, and again, the same goes for the adults as well, but when there is a level of AI literacy and there is education happening on how to use AI in powerful, impactful, and good ways, learners will be able to, and many of them probably already are, using AI to design for themselves, to set the stage of their learning themselves. Right? And so that concept of who am I as a learner, what do I do well with, what sort of resources and scaffolded supports do I need, and how can I get those without needing to go through anyone else? How can I just get that from me? And to really center the idea that it's really learner variability across contexts that is in need of a sort of centering of thought around education. A student does not arrive with the same skill set and apply themselves the same across all situations. It can vary widely depending on where they are and what the task or demand is at the time. And so sweeping generalizations of what a student might need or not need are often made or have been made quite frequently historically. In the age of AI, that doesn't need to be the case because we have on-off switches, right? We can pull in a strategy or a support in a particular context, in a particular learning experience, or even in terms of assessment as well. And then we can turn it off if we don't need it in other situations. And so again, personalizing the process. So those are some of the positives, right? So there's empowerment, there's better design, there's breaking down of barriers, and just more accessibility in general, more inclusive process in teaching and learning. Now, there are, of course, as with anything, things that we need to kind of keep our eye on. There's a healthy skepticism. And a lot of that centers around, well, first of all, safety. So understanding AI and some of the areas of weakness that it holds. So it's not a human being. So it doesn't have judgment. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't always know what the red flags are. It may look at inputs to the system, as equitable in all forms, like data wise, right? So work samples might be read with the same, level of deserved protection as PPI or PII, right? Personal information that needs to be protected. So things such as evaluations and documentation that's tied to disability category and qualification for services such as IEPs or 504s. Those are things that really require protection. And we know that there are laws and there are policies in terms of data privacy agreements that exist, COPA, HIPAA, FERPA, the National Data Privacy Agreement, that are all important. And, so many of our tech developers and tech companies are following those and offering all they can in that way because they are wanting for students to be protected as well. One of the things that is on my mind right now is this piece around the sensitive student data that is associated with disability categorization and the IEP process. So in order to establish an IEP, we first need permission, right? We need either a request and we need a permission to assess and evaluate a child. So there's a whole process of informed consent for that. Nothing can happen with an IEP without the parental consent. Or if a student is over the age of 18, they can consent for themselves. And there are consents to accept an IEP, right? So an IEP cannot become active without informed consent given by the parent or the 18-year-old student themselves. We do not currently, to my understanding, and to my experience, have anything in place that brings into focus informed consent for use of artificial intelligence in the process of managing data that is sensitive of that kind. And it is an area, it's an important point to be made. And the reason is this. The things we talked about earlier as being positives, particularly for the educators, being able to design more equitable experiences for the learners. That's all well and good. But there's also another side to things with special educators and related service providers who are the developers of IEPs and who do the assessments that lead to those. That's a pretty heavy lift. There's a lot of work that gets done in that process. And while there's a lot of celebrating happening in general education and a lot of celebrating happening in special education from a design perspective, from a workflow standpoint in special education, we have this wonderful tool, AI, but there's a big giant barrier in front of it before we can use it in a way that will help our workflow to allow us to spend more time doing the more important work with the people, the humans in the room. And that is that informed consent. Right? We should not assume that it is okay to enter a student's evaluation or progress reports or any kind of data that is linked to their disability category into any kind of LLM, regardless of whether there's FERPA, HIPAA, COPA, and a Student Data Privacy Act or agreement signed, because we haven't asked the important question of consent. And until something like that exists, that's a real concern for us to really hold in the center. And I know that kind of went down kind of a little bit of a dark corridor.
It's okay.
But it's one that's very important because we really have to stand up and support our students who are historically marginalized.
Yeah.
It's important that we support them and their parents in understanding that these questions are questions that should be being asked. And at the current moment, there's really not a lot of talk happening around them. So again, supporting and helping those who don't always have the information or the knowledge to advocate for themselves. And hopefully supporting the powers that be that determine these procedures and processes for informed consent for other things to center it in our special education process with IEPs and 504s. Yeah,
it's depending on who you listen to about AI and who you talk to and what you read, there's a full spectrum of people, from the people who are completely anti to people who are like fully all in, and then there's somewhere in the middle. And I think I find myself somewhere in the middle with some reasons I don't like, some things that I would never do. Like I will never do art or drawing with AI, I have mixed feelings about it doing my curriculum. I find some useful things for it. I also have concerns about its impact on the environment because we have no way of knowing that, and that is concerning to me. But I do see its positives. I especially see its positives of closing that gap in terms of like meeting our students' needs. And like you said, its ability to empower them to be independent in their learning. And I also find that, given the right AI fit for a student, and teaching students, just like teaching them how to Google search, teaching them how to search for information the right way, AI can also phrase it and organize it in a way that is so accessible and so much more simply put for our students, right? That makes it amazing.
It really does. I agree with you. Like it does provide a scaffolded support. It does provide the initial steps forward to then be able to assimilate and extend, right? Build independence, build the skill, but with support in place.
Yeah, for sure. And then, the thing that I continue to come back to, and I think, I suspect that you would agree too, is that just like learning how to use the internet, learning how to use AI, we have to be thinkers in order to also know what's good information and what's not. And I think the same goes with, the IEP process and things like that. Like we can input our information for what we want for a goal or for behavior plan, but we have to use trainable human insight in what we're being given back to know that it matches what students need, right? And I think your caution about personal privacy and consent, it also just reminds me that it's not too far off, even in the process like it is now. We still continue to have parents that don't have enough information, that don't know enough about the process, that struggle with the process. It's whether it's AI or it's in person, it's all the same thing. Our work as educators with those parents is to make sure that, they know their rights and that we can be their best advocate for them and also be, a great partner with them.
Right. And we want to be sure that our students' data, isn't out being used to train models. And if it's not something that they or their parents want to have happen, that's just, it seems like such a basic and simple
right.
pause point, right? But it's not, I really can't find much discussion or conversation on it anywhere. And I think and I can't really think of why. I mean, it shouldn't be assumed. We don't assume it for starting the IEP process nor ending the IEP process. So I don't know where it got lost in translation that the process in the middle shouldn't have some kind of a checkpoint for, again, informed consent of, we're going to be using AI, or we would like to use AI. Is this okay with you?
Yeah.
If it is, great. If it's not, great too. Just let us know.
Yeah.
Right.
For real,
we can't make those decisions for people.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. And, I think that we can look to other industries as well, because I see AI being used in other industries like medical with personal information that, requires the highest degree of protection. So maybe we can look and see how is that working and how might that translate into the educational industry?
Yeah. Good point. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, I was hoping that we were going to get this one, and also terrified that we would, because it's a little bit of a big idea stretch for the Doodle and Chat realm. But let's see how it goes. In 2022, you shared your Shadow Meets Doodle images and drawings. What was your favorite part of being inspired by shadows? And I'm hoping that we can either try to recreate the experience today. I do have some shadows on my screen, which I was very excited for. Or I was thinking we could do if people were joining us, that we could do an alternative kind of activity where with the same idea of seeing something out of nothing, right? So what was your favorite part of that process, that challenge?
So Shadow Meets Doodle, I think it got its start during pandemic, where we had so much time in, fewer spaces, really. And so I took to my camera, right, or my phone, and I would go on walks outside, and I would, just have a little bit more time to slow down the world, and I would come across things that would just be, evoke my curiosity. And so I'd want to savor that and take a picture, because I would think, oh, that perspective is interesting, or that shadow is, helping that shape or that object take on a different form, or I'm looking and seeing how it could be an extension of something in my imagination. And so I would take these photos, and I would come back, and I would sit down with my iPad, and I would kind of download or upload all of the photos, and I would choose one and sort of look at it and try to take on a different perspective than the typical, right? Just really trying to like change my point of view. And from it, I would sketch over the picture and kind of lean into the shadows to evolve the drawing into something, an extension of what it actually was. And so it just sort of expanded my imagination, my flexibility of thought. It got people talking. That was the other thing. Like, during pandemic, we were so isolated. And so, we went, from going to school every day and being highly engaged to, well, pack up, we'll see you soon, right. Which was not really soon. It was a nice way to bring people together to kind of, talk about like, this is what I saw. What do you see? And then, people would also kind of start to draw and do their own shadows with doodles. And it was really exciting. I haven't had a chance to really keep up with that like lately, but it crosses my mind all the time. And I wish for it, to be honest with you. But I think that our world is moving so fast that I just don't have that same pause time.
I agree. It's hard to be intentional with our time for ourselves with that kind of stuff. Yeah. As much as we know how important it is. I get reminded that a lot, that I should take time for myself, and I find it to be hard to do.
Yeah. I find I'm taking in more new information now. I think especially around the AI, trying, to keep up and trying to understand how, what does it mean? How do I use it? What the ethics of it, the responsibility of it. And so that, that sort of slower pace, that, revisiting and learning things that were familiar or known, is more replaced with new information of things I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah.
Maybe I need to be more intentional about building in time to revisit the familiar.
I know it's a hard balance, I find, between like creating and learning and consuming and all that,
And I don't know if over near where you're at, if you've had any revisions in the IEP process, but here in Massachusetts, we have what is called the new IEP. It's the IEP 2.0. And so there was a learning curve with that. It was a good shift in that it centers the student's agency more fully into focus. And it's meant to be a document that is an easier read and process for parents to understand. So the changes were good. It just, again, sort of happened quickly and all at once. And so the learning curve was steep. So that just kind of, changes the way we use and spend our time. So Shadow Meets Doodle, such a happy time, such a wonderful way to bring people together, a creative time that really just allowed me to sort of express myself in new ways during a time that so much was changing. And yeah, I still look for shadows everywhere.
I love that idea. You even gave me the idea, because we do a lot of sketchnoting in my classroom. But there's often times when students have some downtime or need some structured downtime, right? Yeah. But the idea of giving them a picture and having them find something in that would be really fun. That would be a really fun, that would be really fun to do.
Absolutely. And it ties in to, the standards really, when you think about like discussion of point of view and being able to take on different perspectives and defend an argument as to why you see what you see and why. It's sometimes that thinking and the visual thinking that can then translate and make the writing piece of point of view and persuasive arguments feel like something familiar.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah. And it's also it can be very inferential for some students too, which is a skill that many of the kids that we work with need.
Yeah, it pulls into focus prior knowledge, prior experience, all of those things that really do connect to deeper thinking and higher order thinking. And, again, connecting back to AI, we can leverage AI to help students with all of those more critical, deep thinking processes if we design it that way. right?
Yeah.
So again, like the human in the center with AI, the human in the center with things that are not AI, always the humans in the center when it comes to teaching and learning.
Yes. Yes, I love that.
But yeah, the shadows are definitely fun. And I would, include my own kids in the process. And sometimes they'd be like, oh my goodness, like, Mom, what are you doing? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And I'd say, wait, but don't you see it? And then like, oh yeah, you're right. Like that does kind of look like what you're seeing. And it's nice to kind of be able to enjoy discovery together as well. I think
yes,
that,
I would
we
agree.
need to invite students to discover and be curious, and to not always look for what's right or wrong, but just what is true for you. Because we spend a lot of time checking boxes and making sure that we get the answer. And in life, there's really, I feel like I don't really look for the answer every day. I do look for ways to be flexible and have positive outcomes. And it never is the same pathway twice. So
that's true. That's very true. Yeah, rarely do we have the right answer. I mean, except for like in education and things like that. And there's lots of conversation around different ways we could do things. Yeah, and being collaborative for sure.
Right.
I love that. Human in the center. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, really very important, in order to use the tools in the most productive and supportive and thoughtful, empowering ways. Nothing can be automated. It's just, it needs to be like a car. You're driving it.
Yeah.
So how are you going to use it? Where are you going to take your turns to get to your destination?
Yeah.
And there's many iterations, right? So maybe what you ask the first time or how you're designing it one time, it doesn't wind up being the way that you get to the endpoint that you're seeking. And the same will be true of your students. I think we're going to need to do a lot of modeling, a lot of narrating in order to cascade what we learn about using AI and teaching and learning to our learners, so that they can also appreciate why taking the shortcuts is not the way to use AI. It's a better process to use AI to help you find the long cuts, really, to do the deeper thinking, to take the road less traveled, to even ask the AI to ask you questions, right? To prompt your thinking, instead of asking it to do things, ask it to ask you to do things.
I'll wait and see where that road takes me. I'll leave it empty for now.
I love that.
I just loved it. Just a simple phrase like human in center, like it's just a simple phrase that we can say to each other or remind a peer or just our own thought process whenever it comes to, quite frankly, anything we're using with students or in the classroom, right? Is the human in the center of it,
That's it. At the end of the day, we're not going anywhere. And sure, technology can help create opportunities to rework, to remix how maybe we do things. But at the end of the day, it is still the humans deciding what that remix process will be, whether the output that you get is something you'll use or you'll tweak it or iterate it again, make it more unique, more personalized to the people, the humans that you're working with. Yeah, it's a wonderful tool when used well.
Yes.
And again, it comes back to that, AI literacy and just understanding what it is, how it works, what's safe, what's not safe, and how to, how to make sure that when we are using it, that we're using it for good. There's a lot of talk around plagiarism and cheating, and I feel like plagiarism and cheating has been around for a long time, and I don't really know that it's AI that's going to be the reason for it. It's just taking the fall at the moment.
Agreed.
Yeah. And really it comes down to making assessments that are not cheatable, right? And there's some pretty good work being done out there to help teachers learn about how to do that and how to use that process.
It reminds me of the same thing when we had the conversations around Google and like, if they can search it, is it a good question? It's the same cycle, right? It's just a different digital tool that we have to use caution with, and we have to continue to be smart humans about, right?
And AI is toothpaste. It's not going back in the tube. It's not ever going back. Right. So we need to learn how to use it and not block it or ban it or anything like that. Like, we need to embrace it and do a good job with how we disseminate the education and how we model and how we design its use in classrooms and teaching and learning experiences.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. We need to teach our kids to think about what they think about AI and to be, what's the Spider-Man phrase, with great power comes great responsibility. It's the same thing.
Right.
Like, same thing, right?
100% exactly that.
Be a good human, right?
Just be a good human. Be a good human. Use your superpowers for good.
Yes.
Right? And use your tools, your super tools, for good.
There you go. That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. And when we think about, like, coming back to, breaking down barriers and thinking about designing from the margins, and, just because someone, uses a ramp to get into the building doesn't mean they were cheating to get into the building. They just got there in a way that works for them. And so I think we have to also think a little bit about AI and some of the perceptions it might carry, that it dumps things down for learners, or that, it leans toward cheating, or, that the rigor is going to be, sacrificed as a result. I don't think that's true, as long as we're thinking about it from all angles, right? So if you start from designing from the edges, then you're going to be able to include every single person, all the way to the center, in the reverse, right? Yeah. The idea is to zoom in and zoom out, to be able to go far and wide, but also come to the center, and for everybody to be able to be flexible in that process. Okay. And I think that visual thinking does that too, right? Like, that's a connection here. And I think that we're seeing AI evolve with its its ability to work with symbolic communication and images, and to interpret more than just text inputs. I do like what I'm seeing in terms of outputs of infographics at times, although it doesn't take the place of creative art. Sometimes the infographics can be helpful in making data more visible and easier for people to understand. So I do like that.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's not to be mistaken or substituted for creative art and creative visual thinking products, right?
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah, that gets really messy.
It does. It does get messy. And I can't say that I hate that AI has also forced educators to look at their practice and think about what things they've given up, like paper, pencil, or drawing, or handwriting, that are valuable parts of learning. I say that with caution too, because I also realize that if we say AI is bad and we don't like it, and we go back to just handwriting and reading text just to read it, we also lose accessibility features that we have fought so hard for. So I like all of it.
Right, all of it, right? It's not all or nothing. It's all of it.
Yes.
And it's having the ability to say, selective, right? A la carte. Oh, for ELA, I will need this. For science, that's more hands-on, but there's harder words. So I'm going to need something to help me break those words down. But maybe I don't need the whole read aloud.
Agreed.
And math is a whole other ball of wax. But AI can do so much to help with word problems, right? When you think about math, sometimes we think just about the symbols, but like word problems, that's language. And so being able to scaffold and break things down and make them more relatable. AI can do a great job. You know, if your class is filled with, say, you know, so I'm from Boston, right? So maybe there's Red Sox fans, and all of a sudden the word problems become about something motivating, like that right there. Yeah. It's helpful. Saves, you know, it can save a lot of time in creating the content, but it can also help with managing behavior and keeping kids motivated and on task.
Yeah, no, I have not had a chance to fully explore because we don't have like full reign of AI on our students' Chromebooks. But I do a lot of self-driven individual math in my classroom where let's say, because I'll get like 10 kids in my classroom and they're not all the same grade level. So one way I've worked on meeting all their needs is making this really individual approach to math. So like if you're working at a 3rd grade level, I have all the concepts that you need to learn. You get to pick one, and and I have it very scaffolded approach, a very structured approach for them to then go and learn how to do that. Let's say it's adding with regrouping, right? One thing I could see that could be very beneficial for AI, especially when we get to some of our older kiddos, is learning how to search for the list of how-to, the step-by-step of a math process. Right. Especially, and that's for, you know, for any kid, right? But also for especially for our kiddos who need constant cyclical math because they can't hang on to the math concept or how the steps are. Well, if I know how to do a search when I get to this problem that I don't know how to do, and I'm really good at reading steps, I could see AI with math being very beneficial for that.
Absolutely. Yes. And just the empowerment of being able to do something, right? The just-in-time nature of the support that AI can sometimes provide is exceptional. Some classrooms are quite large. There can be upwards of 30 students, and there's maybe one teacher or a teacher and maybe an assistant teacher. And there are more students that need help that can be helped at one time when the only resources for help and support are human adults. If there's an available AI tutor that has been created and designed by teacher that can provide support to an extent that has been approved and designed as such, that can provide just-in-time support that then ends the buffering of students doing nothing at their desk because they're waiting for the teacher to be able to get to them.
Yes.
Right?
Love
that. I think about that a lot. Right? But it can't just be any tutor. It needs to be a specially designed tutor.
Right. Right. Yeah. Or even just for specific tasks even. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Love it.
So yeah, there's so much to consider. You know, and as you said a few minutes ago, it's not all or nothing, but at the same time, we don't want toothpaste coming out of the tube so fast, too much, not the right toothpaste, for what the needs are at the time.
Yes.
But we also don't want to hold back, right? We don't want to withhold support. So we're so early in this too. I just want to say,
that's true. It really has. The conversations really have exploded for something that we really are very new at.
Right. I mean, AI has been around a long time, sure, but it's only been being talked about in education probably for 3-4 years, maybe 3. So, and the first, I'm going to say 1.5 to 2, most people were just listening.
Yes.
There's some early adopting states, but most states were listening.
Yes.
Hearing the footsteps on the pavement. And so now the conversations are starting, and they will continue, and we will, I think, continue to learn and grow and figure out how do we use this one-of-a-kind tool, resource that we've never had anything like, right? We try to make analogies to, this is like when the calculator came along, or this is just like digital citizenship. And no, it's not. Like, there's some commonalities, but it's not. Like, this is like the calculator and digital citizenship rowdy cousin who just showed up at the door unannounced and has all these bells and whistles that are, have potential to do great things, but that is just, it's complicated.
Yes. All right, here we go. You have an Elizabeth Gilbert Big Magic quote on your website. And it says, "What do you love doing so much that the words failure and success essentially become irrelevant?" How does that quote connect with you? Why did you pick that quote for your website?
Well, because I feel like when you are so enthralled or committed or in love with an idea or a concept or the pursuit of something, that your success or failure doesn't matter. What matters is that you're following your heart. You're allowing yourself the grace and space to explore and discover and learn in a completely safe environment where there are no restrictions. Failure is not a fear. It's just the pursuit of experience, the pursuit of your curiosity, the pursuit of whatever makes your heart beat faster. Mm-hmm. And that's what life is, right? Like that's big magic.
Yeah.
Right? If we do anything in this planet, on this earth, while we're here, if we can find ways to enjoy some time with those ideas that I just mentioned, then we are living life the right way. And by doing that, by sharing that energy, right, by enjoying it ourselves first, and then sharing it and modeling it and showing others, that can be pretty impactful. I think sometimes with our learners, there's a lot of fear, a fear of failure. Now there's also fear of AI, right, as a tool, and how that gets a little messy. And so fear of fear. I hear kids say it all the time, like, oh, you'll say to someone like, "This is a really great essay. I like what you wrote," and they'll say, "Well, hopefully nobody thinks AI wrote it, because no, AI didn't write it. I wrote it." But it's that looming holdback, or that looming dark cloud. Yeah. And so I think that with Elizabeth Gilbert, what she does with Big Magic is she opens our eyes to let that go. Don't be held back. Go follow your curiosity. Do what brings you joy. You will learn. You will learn in the process. Good, bad, or otherwise, it's learning, and all learning is good.
Agreed.
And it instills, a belief in yourself. And I think that, in uncertain times, that really is something that needs to be embraced. Nurtured. Yes. Right? Nurtured. Mm-hmm. Whether you're a young learner or you're an adult. It's just something that we constantly need to make sure that we're nourishing ourselves and our souls and our belief in self.
All right, here comes another one. Oh, this one is a random one, but the bowl knows.
It always does.
It does. What is your most fun family tradition? I feel like this is perfect for you. You're very, like, your family's so, I know your family's so important to you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. They are so important to me. And I feel like we have so many traditions. It's hard to say. My very favorite? I mean, traditions have changed over the years, right? So, and when I think about family, I think about my whole, the extended family. And so both my parents have passed now. So what has been a tradition in the past, a lot of the things are not are not sustained or not in the same way.
Yeah.
But I will say that for many years, we would take an annual trip and we would go to the island of Aruba.
Oh.
And it was really special. I don't know if you've ever been there or if you know anyone who has been there, but it's a very relaxed, slow pace kind of island. It's warm, obviously. And it's got the most beautiful, ocean and opportunities to do scuba diving and snorkeling and see some really beautiful tropical fish. And so I have a lot of really fond memories of, kind of like my entire family being able to be together and to share that really special time. I look back at that now and I'm just like so pleased to have so many memories and to have so many pictures and stories to tell. And the fact that my own children were able to, they remember it. They were old enough the last time they were there that they remember the experiences. They remember traditions. They remember cultural things that they learned. And they have some, I don't know what the right word is, but like kind of like a permanence. There's a permanence in memory of that shared experience that we had together.
Mm-hmm.
And so there would be lots of, lots of outdoor activities, lots of, like I said before, like the snorkeling, the scuba diving, the fishing, walks on the beach, and going there for many years, we would develop friendships with other families that would be there the same time of year. And so building friendships and connections and getting to know people from not only around, the United States from different areas, but people from around the world. To stay in touch with people and learn about their family and how they celebrate holidays and things was a really cool experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think traditions are a nice thing to talk about. I think that's something that I try to invite students to share about as well, because it kind of allows them a little bit of an opportunity to share about who they are beyond who they show up as each day. It kind of tells the backstory, right, of who they are and what their experiences have been. And, even, sometimes understanding like, oh, so there's many languages spoken in your home. Like what are the languages and how is that? Like, do you speak it? Do you understand it? Both? Do you write? So students can really provide some really nice windows into who they are, their background, what things that are interesting for them, and share again back to that cultural differences and just expanding points of view and perspectives of what is a holiday. What is a holiday in the United States is different than what a holiday is in Holland or in Aruba or in Spain. But you don't know these things until you have the conversations.
Agreed. Yeah. And traditions are just really fun ways to get to know kids too and their families.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. And then if there's, an opportunity, sometimes there's food involved, right? So sharing, like I always love sharing a meal or having some kind of an event that brings food into the equation, because I just think food, it's magical. It
is.
People loosen up, they're tasting things, they're trying things. The conversation just starts to flow. Recipes start getting exchanged. People become lifelong friends.
Yes, for sure.
It can be really helpful to stir those conversations up in a classroom.
Agreed.
And I think it also, here's the real reason also, a deep reason that I feel strongly about that is that it invites asking questions, right? So yes. inquiry centered or inquiry driven learning, I think, is going to become more and more important, especially in this age of AI. We are going to be asking questions, but I think also have questions asked to us. Less true, false, more explain, more help me understand.
Yes.
Maybe more show me, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I hear from students, oh, I'm not an artist, I can't draw. Oh, you don't have to be an artist to draw. You just need a pencil and an idea, and I, and just maybe a willingness to give it a shot and see what happens when your ideas start to fall onto the paper. I wonder, though, how AI might help a student who was having trouble getting started with ideating their thought onto paper. Might they ask the AI tool, how should I get started? I'm trying to show my thinking about whatever that might be.
Love it.
I find that when I encourage students to just start with as you probably do, like start with a shape, start with a squiggle, start with a dot, start with anything.
Yes.
That they suddenly, like once they take that first step, it then starts to flow.
Agreed. Agreed. Or sometimes it's just, let's draw together, and they can copy you. And that's very helpful as well.
Yeah, choral or parallel drawing is so effective.
Yes.
It's telling, though, isn't it? Telling about the confidence piece and telling about comfort with risk taking, or discomfort. Really is the better word.
Yes.
And again, I think it comes back to that the way that we are accustomed to getting answers right, thinking about the product or the end answer, not the process and how you got there, and just time. It does take more time to be able to sit with a student and listen to their verbal explanation of how they got to something, but definitely missing out when we don't take the time to do it.
Agreed. This is one of my favorite questions. It's in the bowl for every guest. And I'm always curious if the bowl is going to give it to me, and I'm so happy that it gave it to you. What are 3 timeless strategies and or mindsets for any educator? And I think this will be a great one for us to end on. This is wonderful.
Okay. Yeah. So that would be the mindset that all communication is valid. Right? That we should weigh all communication the same. That text does not carry a higher weight or value than a drawing or an image, a song, a poem. Right? It's not necessarily the written language that needs to hold the flag high all the time. All communication is valid, and we owe it, right, to our fellow human beings to honor that thought and to not hold everything into one box, right? So allowing things to spill over, to be different, to be personalized, to represent what is a gift in one person, right? And to be curious, right? Be curious when the communication you receive isn't necessarily the communication you give, and work with people, work with your partners to become literate and become fluent in the many different ways that communication can happen. Because this world is full of people who are diverse, neurodiverse, and who have many different gifts and talents. And there's a lot of them that have a lot to offer that doesn't always have a place on the stage. So I think we need to do a little bit of work on that by standing with that idea or that belief system or mindset that all communication is valid.
Yes, agreed. That's one. You got 2 more.
All right.
Spread your wealth.
All right. What's another? Was it mindset? What was the other?
Or strategy.
Strategies?
For any educator. Yeah.
For any educator. Okay. Yep. Please turn on the captions all the time.
Use a microphone and turn on the captions.
Turn on the captions all the time, because accessibility is the foundation, right? That is the entry point. And so please do that. If we are only turning on captions some of the time, or only using the microphone some of the time, we are leaving out people, and that doesn't need to be the way it is. And other strategy, I would say lean into learning more with your students, right? So if there's a way to think about the systems that maybe exist within the structure of your classroom and how it runs, do a little bit of an audit to see what is the percentage of adult versus student determined use of time, and ask yourself, how might that become more, closer to an equal split, right? But at the same time, being cognizant of covering all the bases that are necessary with the curriculum and teaching and learning minutes and all of that. But how might student voice and choice be more centralized than it is at the time of audit? There's always, in my experience, there's always room for improvement in that category. And again, I will blame it on, we have so much to do and not enough time to do it in. And so sometimes we lean into adult focused and adult structured, and we forget that just because it sounds good to us doesn't mean it's landing well with them.
Yes.
So I think that's 3, right?
It is 3. You did wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's so many more that I could think up, but yeah. Just basically just around accessibility, inclusion. If you haven't checked out the UDL Frameworks 3.0, that's also a strategy and an approach that I would definitely recommend. It's all student agency focused and gives oodles of resources and ways to meet the challenge that I just issued in that 3rd one.
I love it.
We want our students to shine as bright as they can. And they arrive to us wanting to do just that. Sometimes it gets a little hectic and they lose that excitement. And that isn't good. So if we can avoid that as much as possible, if we can help them feel more excited about things and feel empowered and seen and heard and like they matter, then they'll stick with us for longer.
Agreed. Well, I'm going to zoom in on, we'll go full screen on mine so people can see what ideas that you shared connected with me. And then if you want to hold your iPad up to the screen, I'd love to see what you have.
Okay. Well. Yes. Hang on. I'm just finishing up this little.
You have time. I'm going to do some talking.
Okay.
It was so much fun. We got Aruba and then the shadow doodles, which I'm excited to bring back to my classroom. The reminder about embracing life and big magic, the wonderful AI conversation that we kept. It was human-centered, but it was also, we kept, everything came back to, I mean, all the conversations were about different things, but they were all human-centered, from your time with your family to the quote that you use on your website. And then each of the strategies or mindsets that you reminded us that were important and valuable for all educators, it all came back to being human-centered, which I loved.
So important, right? We're the most important people in the room, all of us, the students most especially, but also the teachers who are devoted to supporting their teaching and learning experiences.
Agreed. Agreed.
So this is my creation here.
I'm going to zoom in.
And
hold on.
You'll see it's kind of a mix of some basic words, the things that we covered, which was, AI was a big topic. And we talked about the way that it can empower both teachers and learners to advocate and to really show what's possible. Learners can do so many things. We talked about the shadow meets doodle. And so I had my trusty camera there and talked about the history of it all and the ways that we can use point of view and perspective. Two people can be looking at the same thing and maybe have some similar thoughts, but also may have differing points of view. So there are two people there saying like, oh yes, I love it. And then also, oh, tell me more. Like, I don't, maybe that's a new idea for the person on the other side. And then UDM in the corner, just again, bringing the main points of eliminating barriers, maximizing inclusive experiences, and helping every single learner feel as though their agency is valued, seen, heard, and supported.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today. And friends, if you joined us live or you are joining us later and you picked up a pencil, put it to paper and doodled along with us, please snap a picture of your Doodle and Chat and share it on your favorite social media platform, #Doodle and Chat, so that Kim and I can see that you were with us and all the fun that you had along with us tonight. Thank you so much again, Kim. And everybody else, have a great night. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.